This morning I'd like to tell you two stories, or two parables, give you two allegories before you begin your work here at the ninth Taimun. The first of these stories is the lily pad problem. Imagine, if you will, a small village, and outside that village there's a small pond. And in that pond there's one lily pad. Since you selected the lily pads and you've designed the pond, you know that each night one lily pad becomes two. So that, for example, the second day there will be 2 lily pads, on the third day there will be 4, and on the fourth day there will be 8, and so on. You also know that at the end of 30 days, the lily pads will cover the pond, and everything inside will die. But you're the only one who knows that. And cleaning up the lily pads is a very dirty and messy business, and no one likes to do it. On the 27th day of the 30 lily pad days, you go to the villagers and you say, someone has to clean up the pond. The villagers look at the pond and they say, the lily pads only cover 12% of the pond. 88% of the pond is still clean. Don't worry about it. The next day, the 28th day, you go back to the villagers and you say, someone has to clean up the pond. And again, they say, the pond is 75% clean. Don't worry about it, relax. And besides, it's so messy and dirty to clean up the lily pads that we'll wait for someone else to do it. Then on the 29th day of those 30 days, you go once again to the villagers and you say, you have to clean up the pond. They look, they say, you know, it's 50% clean still, but if it will make you happy, we'll clean it up tomorrow. On the 30th day, the lily pads have covered the pond, and everything else in the pond has died. What does this have to do with your work here at Taimun? 40 years ago, as Anna said, I participated in Earth 2020. It was a series of lectures and workshops looking at problems that we faced at that time that we felt had to be solved by the year 2020. And 50 years in the future seemed like a very, very long time. The problems that we identified at Earth 2020, almost 50 years ago, included questions such as these: the spread of nuclear weapons and regional wars, overpopulation and food shortages, environmental degradation and pollution resulting from a reliance on fossil fuels, human migration and sustainable development. This list is almost identical to the list of issues that you're going to be discussing over the next 2 days. Members of my generation were able to identify the problems that the world needed to solve, but like the people in the village in the lily pad problem, we didn't understand the urgency of solving them. The question that your generation must answer is, are we, like those people in the lily pad problem, on our 27th day? And that brings me to my second story, the tragedy of the commons. This is an adaptation of an article written in 1968 by Garrett Hardin. And once again, I'd like to ask you to imagine a village. In this village, outside the village, there's a small pasture, a commons they call it. And as a common pasture, each family in the village could place one cow to graze in the pasture. One day, one of the villagers looked at the pasture and decided it would be a good idea to add a second cow. He could gain the benefit of the additional cow at very little extra expense, because the pasture was available to everyone. When another villager saw this, he thought it was a good idea, so he added a second cow. Until finally, everyone in the village had 2 cows in the pasture. And then one villager said, well, if 2 cows are good, 3 cows are better. So he put a 3rd cow in. And so it went until the pasture was overcrowded and all of the cows began to die. The villagers did not set out to destroy the pasture. They made a rational decision that would increase their own wealth. Unfortunately, the accumulation of those rational decisions was catastrophic for the broader community. This is why your experience here at TAIMUN is so important. What you do here, what the negotiations that you have, the dialogues that you're involved in, lay the groundwork that is necessary for you to address the problems my generation identified, but we couldn't solve, and your generation must solve in your lifetime. Even if you never participate in an actual United Nations discussion, these deliberations and negotiations and the experience that you gain will inform your understanding of what governments and corporations do. Remember that the villagers in the tragedy of the commons they were not evil people. They just did not understand the consequences of what they were doing. It is my hope that your work over the next few days will help all of us avoid waking up on that 30th day and finding out that it is